So, whistleblower. It's almost unbelievable to think that somebody in the federal government would think that's okay. What is he talking about? Well, a federal disaster relief official ordered workers to bypass the homes of Donald Trump's supporters as they surveyed damage caused by Hurricane Milton in Florida, according to internal correspondence obtained by the Daily Wire and confirmed by multiple federal employees. Yes, FEMA supervisor told workers in a message to avoid homes advertising Trump as they canvassed Lake Placid, Florida, to identify residents who could qualify for federal aid. And essentially, they're saying that they wrote down in the government system messages such as Trump sign, no entry per leadership. They literally put it in the books that they are not going to actually try and approach you for the aid that the government owes you because you paid into the system your entire life because you're a Trump supporter. I made a video a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was, about how the guidebook that the government itself publishes in the government website tells federal workers to render aid based on the characteristics of gender, sex, sexual orientation, and so on. And it's basically intersectional feminism, where you give people, how to put it, more government support because they are considered more oppressed, the more of these marginalized identities that they pile on. So a trans black lesbian is worth a lot more in terms of government support than, say, a random straight white male who's at the bottom of the pile. And now we know that it's not only based on identity politics, it's also based on political loyalty. So if you voted right, the government's going to be there for you. The government, you keep up with your taxes that you paid into your entire life. Otherwise, not so much. This is Charlie Kirk. This is a tweet from him saying, wow, they recently fired FEMA crew leader Marnie Washington. She claims FEMA leadership is making her the scapegoat of a wider scandal of avoidance of helping certain victims based on political beliefs. Quote, FEMA preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. This is not isolated, this is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, you'll find avoidance in the Carolinas. She claims FEMA leadership knows all about this. This is a CNN article. FEMA employee fired after telling relief team to skip houses with Trump signs following Florida hurricane. Now, can you imagine why anyone would vote against the current government? I certainly can. You have to remember, America is a country that rejected racism. You know, they essentially democratically voted to end the slavery of blacks, to give blacks the right to vote, and to give women the right to vote. These are not the people who want to have discrimination based on immutable characteristics or party loyalty, which is the anathema to any sort of democratic system. It's essentially the symbol of an authoritarian system, that if you do not vote for the correct party, you get punished. Is there any wonder that the American people roundly rejected this regime? And of course, we have people retweeting things like the New York Times fact check Trump's false claims about the federal response to Hurricane Helene. And the former president falsely accused the Biden administration of spending disaster funding on migrants, neglecting areas that had voted for Republicans, and ignoring a call from a Republican governor. This is all true. They gave, I believe, FEMA money to like aid in Lebanon or something similar. Essentially, then they said that there's no money left for the American population. And people were saying things like, so the conspiracy theory was true again. And looks like Trump was right again. These are the tweets that you find underneath this little story. Why am I not surprised? Seriously, you had a record voting for Republicans from minorities. Because guess what? Unless they are in an echo chamber, which some people are, you know, listening to CNN and MSNBC and the like all day, and all the late night TV shows, show hosts. Okay, if you are in that echo chamber, you'll never hear this story. But if you hear this story and you check it out and you find out that it's true, 99% of the American population, in my opinion, would vote against that administration because they're good people and they're not racist and they're not sexist and they're not authoritarian. They don't think that voting for the other party deserves this. Seriously, when you essentially keep the government afloat your entire life with your hard work, and then when your disaster comes, they aren't there, anywhere to be seen. Why? You voted wrong. You were born wrong. Oh no. It's evil. It's incredibly evil. And it's so obvious and blunt about it. They literally write it down in the books. So yeah, leadership says don't enter because there's a Trump sign. What more could you possibly want? Nobody would vote for them if they knew. I say nobody. There are a few people who are actually essentially race fanatics. They do hate people for being white, straight, male, voting for Republicans. I did make a video yesterday, I believe, about the liberal women who want to put poison in your drink if you are a man and voted wrong, in their opinion. So there are people who absolutely, who, like I said, live in an echo chamber and believe that their rights are going to be stripped away from them because people voted for Trump. Obviously not going to happen. He was president already for 4 years. How didn't it happen back then? He had 4 years to do it. Why not? Because he's not going to, because he doesn't want to. Just like he says he doesn't want to. He said he'd ban a federal abortion ban bill if it came to his desk. He won't sign it. Okay. Still, if you listen to The View and CNN and MSNBC, then you will be absolutely out of your wits with fear over the election of Trump. So I can see some people, a small minority, going along with this, but we can see that the majority did not like these kinds of policies. This is not an isolated thing. They keep pushing this every day, on all levels, in media, in academia, in the Justice Department. They keep trying to create a sort of pyramid scheme where some people are higher and some people are lower on the social scale based on party loyalty and mutable characteristics. And people reject that soundly. Now, essentially, they're saying that they have employees actually saying, when we got there, we were told to discriminate against people. It's almost unbelievable to think that somebody in the federal government would think that's okay. The employee said it felt wrong to discriminate against Trump supporters when they were at their most vulnerable. I volunteered to help disaster victims, not to discriminate against them. It didn't matter if people were black, white, Hispanic, for Trump, or Harris, everyone deserves the same amount of help. That's the exactly correct way to think about this. Whenever you see a disaster, we have a lot of wars here in Israel, for example, you see everybody suddenly going, wait, we have to band together to sort of fight shoulder to shoulder to keep the communal fire going, you know, to be united against outside enemies or any sort of disaster. I believe there was a giant forest fire a couple of years back, and everybody once again was very big on the unity and helping the government, even if you're in opposition. Afterwards, they said, oh, you didn't do enough, etc. They started with the political attacks as usual. But during and, you know, shortly after, there's political unity. And that's what should have been, that's what was, even in America in the past. People were not as divided as they are today. And they shouldn't be this divided. They shouldn't hate each other for supporting the other side. I do hate Democrat politicians, a lot of them. I think a lot of the Democrat donors, giant corporations and very rich people are absolutely horrible people. But the people who voted for them, they're just wrong. They're not evil. A lot of them, most of them even. Yeah, if you say that you'd poison the drink, I can't stop going back to this because it's so crazy. It's so unbelievable. Obviously, some people are indoctrinated in the extreme. They're fanatics. But most people are not. Most people are good people and they don't have bad intentions. They just were lied to. You shouldn't hate your political opponents for being lied to. It's just, this division is going to be exceedingly damaging to our ability to actually handle any sort of real issue. And it's sort of why it's so impressive and so important that Republicans won essentially all of the sort of arms of government at once. The House, the Senate, governors, and the presidency. Because they have enough political power to enact change, to override the opposition. And this is needed because change must happen if we are to rise above this division and actually act against the root cause of all these problems. the people who enact this type of policy, a very racist and sexist policy, a very authoritarian policy, they have to be fired. They have to be investigated. What are you doing? If people were hurt or are gone because they didn't receive the help that they should have, because they were discriminated against, then the person who did it, the people who ordered it, they should all be, in my opinion, investigated and charged for it. And that definitely should be a crime. And I would guess that it is. Just hazarding a guess. I don't know anything about the law specifically in the United States about disaster relief or the election of duty. It's interesting because it says here that FEMA agents ordered not to help houses with Trump signs were operating in Highlands County, a deep red area located in south central Florida that backed Trump by 70% on Tuesday. It was hit with tornadoes, torrential wind and rain, and flooding when Milton hit in October. In the chat, Washington said that it would be best practice to avoid homes advertising Trump, according to photos of the messages viewed by the Daily Wire. No explanation was given for this guidance, which included other recommendations like telling the workers to practice de-escalation and preventative measures and to avoid high-salt diets and coffee. I wonder, avoiding coffee. I'm personally not a huge fan of coffee, I prefer tea. But why is a government agency telling its people not to drink coffee? Very strange. I don't know of any specific scientific study or any other proof that says that you shouldn't drink coffee during disaster relief. That's a new one for me. It's a bit bizarre. We're lumped in with all of the very serious accusations of wrongdoing that FEMA basically is under right now. Also, don't drink coffee. Out of left field a bit. Anyway. Yeah, it's basically they mark things, if they are subtle, they mark these properties as not able to access property. With listed explanations such as Trump sign no entry per leadership note stop Trump sign, and Trump sign no contact per leadership. It's all the same variations of the same thing. They are basically saying that over 20 houses we know for a fact were passed over due to this policy. I wonder if these people can sue the government. I would hazard a guess that they can. It says here, if they had damaged or lost power for over 36 hours, it was my duty to inform them of benefits to which they are entitled through FEMA, one team member wrote in a complaint filed to DHS about the guidance. So the actual people on the ground are complaining about it to the government, or to another government office, essentially saying, we got a absolutely authoritarian and unreasonable decree from up high. Why can't we do our job and help people who need help? That's what we are here for. I reiterate, I think people in the United States are good people for the most part. I think the leadership is awful, and it's because they lie. They lie to pretty much everybody. But you know, they say that you can lie to all the people some of the time, to some people all of the time, but you can't lie to all the people all of the time. And that's why they keep losing. Except, of course, in 2020, when the most safe and secure elections ever happened, and Democrats magically got 13 to 15 million more votes than they did in 2024, 2016, 2012, and 2008. Interesting. It was like 60-something million in all of these elections, but in 2020, it was over 81 million votes. Where did these voters come from and where did they go? It's a mystery for the ages. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.